Spanish announce table, Nova Radio Northeast, and you're very welcome back to the show with myself, Wayne Madden, and have a privilege and a pleasure to be talking to an individual who, to be quite honest, I've been trying to get on the show for about 2 years now, it must be. A gentleman who came up with an absolutely phenomenal idea a few years ago, who'll hopefully tell us a bit about that, to create a book based around Hasbro figure collecting, the Hasbro Figure Collective, a sort of a compendium of childhood memories and nostalgia for many of us. And he is indeed the author of this book, and he joins me today, and that's Mr. Kevin Idden. Kevin, it's a pleasure to finally have a chance to talk to you. How are you keeping?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, good. I mean, obviously, the state of the world at the moment is a bit kind of unusual, but doing the best to kind of keep spirits high. I believe that yourself and your family are taking advantage of VE Day at the moment, which is great.
Yeah, we've got a little street party going on today. I can look out the windows, lots of bunting and flags, and just a chance for people to get out of the house a little bit and try and enjoy themselves while keeping the correct distance. Fantastic.
Sounds great. I mean, it's interesting because in many respects there's a great parallel between obviously the streets of Blackburn, for example, where you're based, and perhaps the WWF ring traditionally in America. And when we spoke to Nick about a year or so ago in Philadelphia, he would how would you first of all, how would you sort of describe Nick's role in your organization, in your partnership?
Nick has been awesome. He's done anything I've asked. He's come up with creative ideas. He did a poem for it. He's done some promotion online. Nick was a very big part of my team, and quite often my go-to guy with ideas. I'd come up with something, he'd say, "Yeah, that's great." Or he'd say, "That's a bit crap, to be honest." So yeah, Nick was in some ways my right-hand man when it came to ideas and content and what do you think about this? So yes. Yeah, Nick was a big part of the project.
Fantastic. So, I mean, that project that we're referring to, for those who don't know, you had come up with an idea to author a book, a sort of a visual guide with reviews and a retrospective, a compendium of Hasbro wrestling figures from the WWF. Tell us about, how did you come up with this idea? Were you a collector of those figures yourself when you were a younger man? And indeed, tell us a bit about sort of how this idea evolved.
I had a lot of these figures when I was younger. I mentioned at the beginning of the book that I was actually into the Galoobs first, and they were my thing. And I accidentally came across these as my nan bought me what I thought was the wrong Christmas present. So she got me the WWF ring, the Ultimate Warrior, and Roddy Piper. So there I was with these figures which didn't match the ones I had, and it kind of snowballed from there, really. Regarding the book, it was more of a bet, really. So I was talking to my friend Andy, who did the proof for the book, and he kind of bet that I couldn't do it, and I said I could, and then here we are at the end of it. So that's how that came on. But then there's so many things online, there's so many different bits, so many pieces, and I thought, why don't you put it all together in one place?
Yes.
Reach out to the community, reach out to the designers, reach out to the guy who painted the prototype figures, and people in marketing, and see what we can pull together and maybe try and fit everything in one place, which I think I've just about done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you speak about the community, and definitely it's something that one of the things I often admire so much about reading through this book and reading through it is the fact that there's a lot of areas of investigative journalism. That is to say that there's a lot of areas in which a lot of work must have been done to send emails, to research forum posts, to kind of make sure that, you were coming up with information that, to be fair, holds a really important place in a lot of people's hearts. I mean, it surprised myself, but did it sort of take you back how big the community was when you started researching these things?
I've been a part of the community in a sense for a long time, so it's always sort of a background lurker on the forums. I'd sell things, I'd buy things.
Yes.
So I knew there was that, but the main target audience for the book wasn't necessarily the guy who sits there on Wrestling Figures forum and knows everything. It's the guy who, like the guy down the street who remembers these when he was younger, or has a mild interest in it. So the people that know everything that's in there. The people that don't know everything, that this is amazing. So that's who I was aiming this at. But yeah, just reaching out to people, and then as soon as I put the idea out, there was lots of people like, guess what I've got in my collection? Guess what I've got? I've been holding this back. Do you want to use this?
Yes.
And there was some awesome things went in, and there's some awesome things which, as the project built, people pulled away a little bit. So some collectors in Japan, there's a couple of collectors in China, people who used to work for Hasbro who have cool things, but then they were like, I don't really want that out there, or to get contact from other fans trying to buy it, etc. So there's other things that could go in there, but unfortunately they didn't get in the end.
Absolutely. I mean, without obviously, delving perhaps into things that are confidential, are there, what kind of things spring to mind when I ask what kind of surprised you the most through this journey? Because, of course, you mentioned you were part of the community yourself, but in terms of actually learning more as the book progressed, what stuff did you get notifications of that kind of made you think, wow, this sort of takes me back, or this sort of shocks me in a sense?
It was seeing a lot of things that I hadn't seen. So, like I said, there's a lot of things being posted on forums, but a lot of people have collected their thing, kept their collections to one side. And then as you dig deeper, new things pop up. And then when the whole Lex Luger and Doink thing pops up, if you sort of look back at the forums, I was contacted by a guy who was a big Star Wars fan and got these sort of things. They're on eBay. What do you know about them? And I spoke to a few people, put a few posts out there, and all of a sudden, it explodes. His items went from 20, 30 pounds or dollars or whatever it was to thousands and thousands. So that was a really exciting time, and it's something I've put in the book as well, how we were at the forefront of that and saw it through. And then there was other people like, do you have the reference documents with the colour charts on there? And it's like, well, I don't, but I know the guy who has, or I want to speak to this guy. And that was probably the most exciting period of the book. It was something totally new.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So in terms of, I mean, these are, it's no doubt about it, in many respects, it's memories, and each individual who used these figures, who played with these figures as a child, will have different memories, obviously, to the collector who maybe started their collection a little later or whatnot. In terms of your own figure collection, I know you mentioned the Galoobs as well. Who were your sort of champions? Who were the figures that were your favourite from Hasbro and the Galoobs? And indeed, did you have those kind of treasured figures that meant more than others? And do you still have them today?
I don't. I had when I moved house, I left a lot of things at my parents' house, and she put them in the shed. And then I came to collect them one day, loads of carded figures, and she said, "Oh, we had a rat about 4 months ago in the shed. It ate through everything, so we threw it all in the bin." So all my ones went. The ones I've got now are other people's rebought ones.
Yes.
But my champion was actually Jerry Sykes. He was the main guy in my promotion. He had a big rivalry with Arn Anderson for about 2 years.
Wow.
So yeah, Jerry Sykes is my sort of unofficial Hasbro hero.
Fantastic. And I mean, in terms of the figures themselves, I know there's a lot of like modding that goes on the forums, and there's a lot of they will either mod the figures to look like current superstars, or they will alter the figures maybe with different trunks or different outfits or whatnot. Is that something that you've been involved with yourself? Is that something that you kind of like? Does it sort of help bring Hasbro into a new age, if you like?
I think it does. It keeps it active and relevant. So there are some people out there now. Their work is absolutely awesome. The customize, the good people who do the customs that are in the back of the box.
Yes.
Custom 2-ups. It's like they are so real. It's untrue, and the work that they're doing is exceptional, and that is keeping these figures alive, which is brilliant. And it also gives you the chance to have a rhythm and blues Greg Valentine in your collection. Yes, it's not the prototype, but this is as close as it's going to get.
No, absolutely. I mean, how do you feel about the newer sort of Mattel line? Obviously, from recent reports, it would seem that line is now in the process of being discontinued if it hasn't already. But how do you feel about the sort of the Hasbro inspired Mattel line that's come out in the last few years?
I was so excited when they were announced. I saw the original pictures, and I was just about to go to Florida, so I went over there and I picked a load up, and I was scouring around Smith's when they came out, because one in 3 towns over or whatever have a new set, so I kind of relit the fire of collecting.
Yeah.
And now I've got a unit which has got a lot of the figures in, because I don't know when to stop. Every time I get some, just get a bit of earache off my wife. Have you bought some more? But it's like I need them, I want them, and it's the whole thing of sort of being a child again. All these figures and needing them in your collection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in terms of that as well, do you still keep base with current wrestling events as such? I mean, do you still go to events, or do you still sort of watch current pay-per-views, stuff like that? I mean, Money in the Bank this weekend, when I say that, obviously we're recording before Money in the Bank, but it'll go out afterwards. But is that something that you still keep your foot in with?
It's not, sadly. Mm-hmm. Occasionally, if somebody from sort of my childhood or that sort of era pops back up, I'll have a nosy.
Yeah.
Goldberg comes back, I'll have a quick look. If Hulk's going to be on a show, I'll see what's going on.
Sure.
But for the modern product, unfortunately not. No, I've got too much going on, and
yeah.
I'd rather spend that time watching the Monday Night Wars or something that I remember from my childhood.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the great things as well about things like the network and even YouTube. I mean, the amount of things that people will upload that before high-speed internet you never thought. I mean, the amount of matches I've seen that I thought I would have never seen these matches. I'd heard about them for years, and obviously we used to, probably much like yourself, we used to trade videotapes for many years to try and see certain pay-per-views or certain classic matches, and now you do a simple search on YouTube and it's there.
yeah, there's no need to have loads of tapes hanging around.
Yeah. In terms of the project itself, going back to the retrospective, the figure collection, obviously at a certain point you decided to go ahead with the Kickstarter and do an online thing and to raise some funds to get the project realized. At what point did that happen, and what kind of took the project from being perhaps just an idea that you might have been able to either self-finance or just do yourself on PDF to a physical actual project that involved sort of the wider internet, if you like?
I always thought it was going to be a decent-sized project, and I thought there was a market there for it. Mm-hmm. The Kickstarter wasn't necessarily to raise funds as such. It was to see if the interest was there.
Sure.
So I knew if it got to a certain point, there was enough money there to make the project. If it didn't get there, then there isn't the interest. It's a nice idea. Nobody really wants it. So that was exciting. As that went along and seeing it build up, and then it reached the target, and it's like, right, this is a real thing now. So let's get to work and get going. I always thought it needed to be something you can hold in your hand rather than just look at on your phone. It can kind of get lost there. But now there's this big book, and it is a big book.
Yeah.
That wherever it sits, it kind of dominates. You see it in people's bookshelves. It sits there. It sits perfectly alongside the Turtles book, the Terminator book, Back to the Future book, and that's what I wanted it to be, and something that kind of lasts in that sense.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, in that respect, looking forward to the future, I suppose it's a bit cliche, but what happens next? I mean, will there be another book? Will there perhaps be a book based on Galoob figures?
I'm toying with the idea of a Galoob one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out if there is the same fan base. The Hasbro's were much bigger. Mm-hmm. In the UK, the sales were quite comparable in that sense.
Yeah.
But on a worldwide basis, I think the Hasbro's way outsold the Galoobs. I've spoken to a few collectors about maybe jumping back an era to the LJNs. But at the moment, since the book came out, there's so many people come out with new stories, new collections, new people who work for Hasbro. My inbox is full of people who wanted their content in the book, but wanted to make sure that it was a thing. It was a real thing. It was coming out. It's in people's hands, and now it's like, oh, I wish this was this was that. So I'm looking at the idea of maybe a limited run of an expanded edition, if that's possible, nearly 400 pages, in hardback with some new content in there. But gone back to the drawing board with Adam. Adam's got the book. He absolutely loves it. Adam Birch was the designer.
Yes.
He brought all my crazy ideas to life. So I say, I want this, I want this, I want this, and he's like, right, give me a day, and he'd do it. So there's a few little things that I think need tweaking, and then we'll see if there is interest in the hardback version and go from there. Fantastic.
Well, I mean, I know that obviously there's a renewed sense of interest in many respects in nostalgia as far as wrestling is concerned. We hope very shortly to have another guest on from Retromania Wrestling, which is the new wrestling game that's coming out in the next few months, which is going to be the spiritual sort of successor to WrestleFest. So if you're not aware of it, I definitely keep an eye out for that one, because that's one of those games that it looks to kind of go back to the arcade sort of style, and it reminds me very much of that sort of Hasbro era. The memories are locked in the same generation, if you like. But I must say, Kevin, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and I suppose I'm deeply delighted that your grandmother made that mistake all those years ago. It's fantastic.
Me too.
Yes.
Me too. I mean, who knows what would happen? But I'm thankful to be on. I've followed the progress, and I know you've been a big supporter of it. You've had a few people on, and whenever I've sent you anything to play the poem or whatever, you've put that on, no questions asked. So I appreciate the support that you guys have given to us.
Oh, it's no problem at all. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Keep it coming. We're always delighted to hear what you guys are up to and what you're doing. And I know that you're busy with planning for sort of VE celebrations and all that. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries.